Welcome to the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum's Zoom series, Trolleyology. My name is Kristen Fredrickson. I'm the manager of visitor experience at the museum. Thank you all for joining us today. So many familiar faces. Always great to see everybody. Welcome back to you guys. And if you're joining us for the first time, where have you been the last 5 years? No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for coming. This virtual series features programs on Pennsylvania transit history topics, stories of the trolley era, and our collection that you can experience from home. Usually we do these on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. You may have noticed today is a Thursday because that worked well for our presenter tonight. And we're going to continue these as long as we have presenters. So please let me know if you have a program that you're sitting on that you kind of maybe are thinking about sharing. I would love to hear from you. That would be things about Pennsylvania, the trolley era, car builders, cities where our streetcars come from. And if you have something that doesn't quite fit those guidelines, please reach out anyway. And we'll have a full list of upcoming presentations on our website at patrolley.org. So right now we've got a program for July and August, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. I'll share the link to our website in the chat in a minute too. And I want to extend a very special thank you to those of you who donated while registering for tonight's program or donated to the museum some other way this year. We really, really appreciate that. For those who might be new to the museum, we were established in 1954 by the Pittsburgh Electric Railway Club as the Arden Electric Railway. And we opened to visitors a few years later in 1963. We're located along the former interurban route between Pittsburgh and Washington, PA. We've got over 50 trolleys and electric railway cars now, and at least 2 of those run every day we're open. We've got a 4-mile round trip ride and close to 50,000 visitors last year. So we'll see what we come out with at the end of this year. Very exciting. A couple museum updates. We have a very cool behind the scenes tour coming up. We're calling it Off the Line because it's places that the public is not typically invited to go. So anybody can sign up for this. The tickets are online right now. And the cool thing about our behind the scenes tours is that a different volunteer is going to lead them each time. So we're probably going to do 3 or 4 per year. Then I think we're working on scheduling the next one with a volunteer who works in the archive. So the next one will include the archive. So they're all going to be a little bit different based on the interests of that tour guide and also what we're working on at the museum at the time. So yeah, then we participate in the Whiskey Rebellion Festival every year. That should be a lot of fun. July 12th, Saturday, I'll be giving tours of the Washington County Courthouse, and we'll also have a big outreach table there with lots of our volunteers representing. And then if you ever wanted to see the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum as a little transit system of its own, come out to the Washington County Fair, where sometimes we run 7 or 8 cars at once on the really busy nights of the fair, but typically usually 3 or 4 at a time. And that's August 9th to 16th. We run a park and ride service for that. So that's always a blast if you like to see cars running. Everything that runs and is, not too fragile comes out that week. Okay, now I would like to introduce today's presenter who reached out to me very recently. So thanks, Rich, for doing this on such short notice. Dr. Rich Allman. Rich Allman is a member of several rail organizations, including the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. He's member number 1003, and also the East Penn Traction Club, where he joined in 1984 and served as the president from 1989 to 91 and 2001 to 2003. His traction interests include historical and modern light rail operations worldwide, preservation, collecting photographs, and HO-scale traction modeling. Rich is a physician in clinical practice and education, having served on the clinical faculty of Einstein Medical Center in Philadelphia since 1992, and was associate director of the residency program in internal medicine. He was medical staff president from 2006 to 9, and again from 2015 to 16. Rich is currently the lead consultant in clinical ethics at Einstein and also oversees residents in internal medicine in their outpatient experience. Rich is an associate professor of medicine at the Sidney Kimmel School of Medicine of Thomas Jefferson University. Okay, at the end of this presentation, we will have a question and answer with Rich, but the chat box will be open, so feel free to enter questions or comments throughout the program, and we'll get to those at the end. And we are recording this to share on YouTube at a later date. At this time, I'm going to ask everybody to turn off their videos because we'll just minimize distractions that way. I'll invite you to turn them back on at the end. So don't be offended if I come along and turn off your video. It's just so we don't have any distractions during the recording. All right, Rich, if you are ready, take it away.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thanks for attending. But what else are you going to do on a miserable rainy night like tonight? Before I begin the presentation of the photos, let me give credit to some of the great photographers who recorded this, and I'll just go through a list of the ones. This isn't everyone who took magnificent photos of deck roof cars, but it's the ones whose images are included in this program. I'll talk about Ed Miller in a minute. Les Wismer was known as the definitive photographer of the last years of the Lehigh Valley Transit, but he also, with his father and brother, visited other properties around the Northeast where deck roof cars ran. Bill Watts was a Philadelphia native who photographed some of the last years of deck roof operation in the Delaware Valley. And then he was a student at Brown University. So he photographed such things as Eastern Mass and Boston. Bob Lewis, many of you may have known, he was a Philadelphia native, and he and his brother and Dave Cope, who I'll talk about in a minute, were teenagers together in the 1930s. Bob eventually became a longtime editor of Railway Age. Jim Schumann, if you wanted to meet a perfect gentleman, he was your man. Jim was from Lancaster. He was a lifelong station agent with the Pennsylvania Railroad. He probably had the best photographic coverage of Lancaster and York, and also excellent coverage of LVT during the deck roof car era, and got around a good bit. I didn't know Frank Fuller, but he shared magnificent photos of particularly New York, Brooklyn, and the New York Rapid Transit system. I don't know if he was a photographer or a collector. I'll tell you about Dave Cope in a minute. John Bowman was a lovable curmudgeon. He and Jim Schumann were among the founding members of the NRHS through its Lancaster chapter. John spent his entire life in Lancaster and got a lot of terrific photos around Eastern Pennsylvania, and then traveled around a good bit too. This is Ed Miller, who was probably one of the premier photographers of all time, of traction photographers. Someone told me once that there was a story on a fan trip. If you wanted to catch the perfect picture, and you were on a fan trip, they would say, you see that short guy standing over on the curb? Go stand where he is and you'll get the perfect picture. Ed had a perfect eye for a picture. He was also one of the kindest and most generous people that ever walked the planet. This is when Ed was a motorman on Capital Transit from 1948 to 1952. Ed, his day off was Wednesday and Thursday, so usually he would spend them either in Baltimore or in Washington photographing all the traction action there. The picture I wanted to have is a much later one of Ed and me sitting in the center door car at Scranton. This is Dave Cope, who was one of the most fun people ever to be with. He had an encyclopedic knowledge of transit and railroad history. He was an excellent photographer. From early on, he used really high quality equipment for his photography. He probably had the best coverage of Atlantic City and the West Jersey Electrics of anyone. And Dave was also a skilled modeler in O scale. Others were Charlie Duncan should be mentioned. He was an outside supervisor with the Boston Gas Works. So he was all over the city as part of his work. He always had a camera on the front seat. And as a result, during the 1930s and 1940s, got some of the most extensive photographic archive of Boston imaginable. Al Connor was from the Philadelphia area and also knew what to do with the camera. George Voith was one of the definitive photographers of the Baltimore transit scene, and Bob McVeigh covered the West Coast very well. Chick Siebert was a skilled O-scale modeler. He also was a prolific photographer. After graduating from college, Chick spent several years working for General Electric in Lynn, Massachusetts, and photographed fairly extensively some of the New England operations, particularly in Boston and Providence. There are unknown photographers, so I have to apologize for not knowing who took all the images. Then there were just very careful and enthusiastic collectors who should be mentioned. Frank Goldsmith, Fred Schneider, who's still an active collector and an active member at PTM. I had mentioned Frank Fuller. Rich Weibel was an enthusiastic collector of photographs of the Philadelphia area. And Richard Wanson, who acquired Charlie Duncan's collection and made prints of it available to people who wanted to collect them. And then some of us will remember Barney Newberger, who was a source of contact prints for a dime. He would send a packet of 50 or 60 prints. You'd send them back some money for whatever prints you wanted, and the ones you didn't want, you returned. And he did this from the 1940s to the 1960s. This is a picture of Chuck Siebert. He knew a place to go to have a good time. So I'm going to ask for some tolerance and forbearance. The young photographers from the 30s and 40s who took these photographs when the railfan community was becoming established, they had limited funds and they had cameras that were unlike what are now available. So cut them some slack and honor them for the contribution they made and the photos that they left us. Remember, this is largely a legacy from Depression-era kids. We'll start off with a pretest. Does anyone think this is a deck roof car? Because Kristen had asked me to say, what was the idea of a deck roof car? Well, it was to improve ventilation and light in the cars. Whether it improved light very much, because the windows were usually filthy, is an open question. But I guess it depends if you're a lumper or a splitter. If you're a lumper, you could say, yeah, this had ventilation equipment on top of the roof of the car. If you're a splitter and a purist, this isn't really a deck roof car. So I just wanted to provoke things a little bit. There'll be another picture at this location many years earlier, later on. This is clearly a deck roof car, one of the Philadelphia standard cars. There were hundreds and hundreds of these for a relatively short number of years because as loops were built on the lines and they acquired the huge fleet of near-side cars, a lot of these disappeared. This was in Morton, Pennsylvania on the Delaware County lines. This photo came from the vast PRT archive. Whatever happened to those pictures, I'm not sure. But the Philadelphia standard car was the standard car. The Delaware County lines were, the standard cars were replaced fairly early with Bernie cars. This picture was taken in December 1913. Another view of a Philadelphia standard car. Note it was a double-ended car with a single pole that had to be swung around. That made for some challenging things in the subway tunnel before the loop was built, which happened fairly quickly after the construction of the Market Street subway surface tunnel. This is at Folsom Depot, which was the main depot for the Delaware County lines. As I said, these cars were replaced by Birney cars, which continued to serve the Delaware County routes, the Media Chester route, the Media Darby route, and there was one other one. It may have been Media Folsom or Essington, but this was the depot out of which they operated, and then later it was a bus garage. This doesn't show as well as I would hope. This was a Philadelphia Transit map, but what it showed was how vast the system was. And if you look closely, you'll see east of the Schuylkill River, which is here, almost every main east, west, and north south street had trolley operation on it. The blue lines were trolley operation. Then in West Philadelphia, some of the north, south, and east, west streets had trolley operation, and a lot of them emanated out of the subway portal at 23rd and Market Street, and then where it came to the street level, right in front of 30th Street Station. Then there were lines into Delaware County. The last lines were the Chester Short Line, the Route 78 Lansdowne Darby, and then the lines which still remain in operation, the remnant of Route 62, which is an extension of Route 13 to Yeadon, and Route 11, which runs on Main Street in Darby. This is another view of a Philadelphia Standard car with the center-mounted pole and some very professional-looking crew members. It's not clear where this was. My guess is it was at what is now Luzerne Depot. Another Philadelphia Standard car, and a lineup of them, actually, looking east on Market Street from 12th Street off to the left, immediately outside of the picture, was the what became the Reading Terminal, the Reading Company. Before that, the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad. There's now an underground station there for the commuter lines. Behind the photographer was City Hall, and off behind the photographer to the right was Wanamaker's store, and it was a major shopping thoroughfare. This was before the Market Street subway was built. Here we are at the 23rd Street station of the subway surface. You can see an eastbound Market Street subway train on the left, and then a car, a Philadelphia Standard car saying Andorra, which would later become the Route 34 Baltimore Avenue line, which ran and still runs into the trolley subway. Here we see a car on its way to the Strawberry Mansion center of the city, making a northbound turn off of Locust Street onto South 9th Street for its journey to Columbia Avenue, which would take it up into the Strawberry Mansion section of Philadelphia. The sign on the far right says Gretz Beer. They later had very elaborate graphic signs that were actually designed by a distant cousin of mine. Woodland Avenue was a major trolley thoroughfare until the trolley subway opened in October of 1955. Here we see a car turning off of Walnut Street. It's interesting, at this point, Walnut Street was a two-way street on the way to Andorra, which was the outer end of the Baltimore Avenue line, a line which later ran into the trolley subway. So this is looking outbound on Woodland Avenue. This didn't turn out as sharply as I had hoped, but it's sort of an important picture to me. On the far right is Broad Street looking south. The oncoming trolley on Old York Road is about to cross Tabor Road. And just outside of the photo on the left, right about where the trolley is my office window. So I can look out of my office and have flashes of nostalgia. The trolleys are still going by there. They did go by as shuttles to and from Luzerne Car House when the Route 6 between Olney Terminal and City Line by way of Ogons Avenue was still running until early 1985. There's still trolley operation where this is, but not eastbound like this car is coming. This car is on what is now Route 15 in Philadelphia, which is the Girard Avenue line, which has been restored, though, with the threatened cutbacks by SEPTA because of its fiscal crisis. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? The outbound track on the extreme right is still operational. The eastbound cars make a right turn off of Girard Avenue about a block west of here, and then turn onto Corinthian Avenue to get around Girard College. Philadelphia had more than 400 of these open cars, but they were never really happy with them. If the weather turned bad in the summer, it was a problem. Getting on and off was an issue. Another photo from the PRT archive. This is at Willow Grove. One of the draws you can see looking at the sign on the below the left-hand front window on the car was the Sousa Band, which often performed in the band shell at Willow Grove. Philadelphia and Westchester Traction had deck roof cars for a relatively short period of time. They got some of these cars from Jackson and Sharp in Wilmington, double truck cars, because they began with single truck cars, which performed very poorly on the Westchester line, which was long and hilly and curvy. So they acquired these Jackson and Sharp cars. This is seen at 63rd and Market Street. It had just crossed over Darby Creek into, no, it's Cobbs Creek, I'm sorry, over Cobbs Creek into Philadelphia, where people would get off and transfer to the surface cars for the journey into Center City, Philadelphia, about 4 or 5 miles from here. In the background was Milburn Mills. Later, that would be a Sears store. On the other side of Cobbs Creek was the borough of Milbourne, which currently makes most of its revenue giving speeding tickets along Market Street. Within a few years, the Market Street Elevated would be built directly over this area and would run to the 69th Street Terminal. The Philadelphia and Westchester would build their terminal immediately adjacent to where the Elevated ended, and it made for a much more efficient connection to Center City, Philadelphia. When the 69th Street Terminal opened, this would become just a freight operation between 69th Street and here at 63rd Street until the mid-1920s when the freight service was discontinued to 63rd and Market. A little further out on Westchester Pike, past where 69th Street Terminal is, this is where Keystone Road is, and the old Keystone School is here. I'm not sure what is in the Keystone School. I think maybe the Upper Darby Police use that now. As you can see, there was a passing siding where the cars passed each other to the left, which was a little unusual. This would soon be double tracked, and the earliest I remember, it was double track, center of the road operation. It's totally built up and commercialized in this area now, and would be unrecognizable, and the trolley tracks are long gone. The Fairmount Park trolley was a deck roof operation. It was not a particularly successful thing, but though it was a noble attempt to provide an unusual service, it operated between 33rd and Dauphin Street in the Strawberry Mansion area of the city, and Parkside and Belmont, actually around 49th and Parkside Avenue. And the main reason it was built was to transport people to Crystal Pool and Woodside Park. During the summer months, it actually ran as two services, one from here at Parkside Loop to this area, which this junction, which imaginatively was called Junction, and it would loop around, dropping people and picking them up at Woodside Park, and then returning to Parkside Loop, or a second service from 33rd and Dauphin, making the counterclockwise trip, and then at the Greenland Junction, making the trip back over the Strawberry Mansion Bridge to 33rd and Dauphin. So it ran as two services, which shared the large loop through Fairmount Park. In the winter months, when Woodside Park and Crystal Pool were closed, it simply ran as a route between the 33rd and Dauphin station, counterclockwise through the park to Parkside Loop, and then back and through the junction, and then back over the bridge. John Bowman took this picture. It's not totally clear where it is. The caption on it, I got this as a print, and John was not able to find the negative, so where he might have had more detailed information. But you can see it's sort of a winter scene. There's not much foliage on the trees, so it's a closed car operating. This is Parkside Loop, the southern terminal of the line. Off in the distance in the right was Centennial Hall, built for the 1876 United States Centennial. This is, looking at the foliage, it's not clear the time of year this is, but there's not a whole lot of people getting on this car. This also looks a little bit wintry, but maybe it was an unseasonably warm day because people were actually on the trolley. I don't know if this was a charter or if it was just a busy day on the line. This is a winter scene with a closed car operating from Parkside Loop. And you can see one of the problems they had. There were like 2 passengers on this car. A busier time of the year as the car made its way west from the Parkside Loop. There was a stop here at 52nd Street, where it would pick up passengers, likely on the way to Woodside Park. Also along the double trackage parallel to Parkside Avenue. This is a car en route from Dauphin Street Terminal to Parkside Loop, having just passed under Belmont Avenue and paralleling Parkside Avenue on its way to the Parkside Loop. This is just south of the junction. This is a summer view, so this would have been a two-car train taking people back from Woodside Park to Parkside. The switch to the big circle was just beyond where those two men are walking. If the car had been going towards, if it was a car from Woodside Park, it would have taken that switch if it was on its way to the Dauphin Street Terminal.
We had a question, I think, about the last photo. Would that be near where the Mann Music Center is today?
I meant to mention that. Thank you, whoever suggested that, Kristen. Yeah, this is just beyond that tree line is where the Mann Music Center would be. I wouldn't want to be there tonight in this weather. Yeah. They have magnificent programs there. The car on the left was a fan trip, and I'm not sure about the car on the right. I think it was sponsored by Philadelphia chapter NRHS. Look at how people used to dress for fan trips. I don't know when I last wore a suit. I guess it was at my son's wedding. But you can see the car on the left. It's on its way towards where the car house and the Greenland Junction would be, and it could either from there go across the Schuylkill to 33rd and Dauphin, or make the full loop by Woodside Park and come back here. And this car, I'm not sure whether that was a regular or if it was a two-car fan trip. The negative jacket didn't say. This is a two-car train of open cars about to take the switch from the big loop around the park. The switch, well, to the right of the picture, he would make a left turn to go on to the loop again. If he had gone straight, he would have joined the double trackage on the way to Parkside Loop. And then, having made the turn there at the junction, this is a car, in all likelihood, coming from Woodside Park on its way to 33rd and Dauphin. And an open car at the at the car house. This is Greenland Junction. The car on the in the background is coming from 33rd and Dauphin, is about to make the big loop on its way to Parkside Loop, and the car on the right is coming from there. And you can see the problem the Fairmount Park Transit had in the winter months. It just didn't carry any riders, particularly on a day like today, like is seen there. This was north of Greenland Junction, going sort of parallel up on a high embankment above the Schuylkill River. In the background, you can see the old Women's Medical College Hospital, which later became part of Allegheny University, and it's now Drexel College of Medicine, though the hospital itself has been closed for more than 20 years. A car coming from 33rd and Dauphin, having just crossed the Strawberry Mansion Bridge. This bridge is still in use. The tracks were ripped up, and it's just open grid there where the trolley had once run. The trolley service ended on September 9th, 1946. And another view at a different time of the year at Greenland, a car making a turn on this fan trip on its way to 33rd and Dauphin. And that same fan trip leaving the loop at 33rd and Dauphin in Strawberry Mansion, where it would pick up riders from North Philadelphia heading for Woodside Park or Crystal Pool. A few smaller deck roof operations in the Delaware Valley. Here we see Delaware Electric Power Company, a deck roof car at Eden Park on the east side of Wilmington, having arrived from downtown. And a little further out at the end of the line at Marine Terminal, which is where the Christiana River empties into the Delaware River. This car is ready for its return trip to downtown Wilmington. It had a very elaborate paint scheme. Speaking of which, as did the Schuylkill Valley traction, which operated local services in and from Norristown. This was on Trooper Road in East Norriton Township. This car had sort of an interesting history. It had been part of the Chestnut Hill, Roxborough, and Norristown Traction Company, which was acquired by Schuylkill Valley, which in turn was acquired for a time by Reading Transit and Light. But the Reading operation found this to be a financial turkey, so they divested it. Trolley service ended, I think, in 1934 on the Schuylkill Valley. This is on West Main Street. That was an asbestos company there on the right. I suspect in 2025, if there was an asbestos company, there'd be a lineup of personal injury lawyers working the sidewalk outside of it. This was midway on that line on its way to the edge of Philadelphia at Northwestern Avenue. This was a passing siding at Plymouth Meeting. The Pennsylvania New Jersey Railway ran several lines out of Trenton, a fairly long line to Yardley, and a more local line to Morrisville. This is seen at Yardley, ready for the journey back to Trenton. This line ran until I think mid-1934. There we see a Pennsylvania, New Jersey car in Trenton. Trenton was an unusual place. There were four different track gauges there. The Pennsylvania, New Jersey Railway was Pennsylvania broad gauge. The Trenton and Princeton traction was a railroad gauge, as was the what they called the high-speed line from Newark to Trenton. And then the Trenton Transit had their track gauge was 5'2", and the Riverton line, which was the public service line, Southern Division line from Camden to Trenton, had a track gauge of 5 foot. So there were 4 different track gauges in Trenton. Trenton Transit ran until December of 1934, and they had quite an assortment of equipment. This car, and I can't find an explanation why, but this car and this one were part of the same order, yet they don't look at all alike. And I looked through Barker Gumry's excellent book on Trenton Transit, and there's not a good explanation there either. This is at the Pennington Avenue loop, one of the long lines on Trenton Transit. This was on Warren Street, crossing the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad with their freight station just out of view on the right. The Center Street line looped at Lawler Street Loop, and there was a car house there. It's interesting. Trenton had all double-ended cars, but they had a fair number of loops that they built on the lines. This was a later order of deck roof cars that came from St. Louis Car Company, also at the Pennington Avenue loop. And this was also one of those cars from St. Louis. Actually, no, this one, yes, it was. Yeah, 294 was the last in that series. This is the East State Fairgrounds loop. This was probably the last summer of operation on that. This was a Brill-built car from 1912. Hershey, east of Campbellstown. This was a cutback of the Lebanon line. It was a charter by the Lancaster chapter NRHS, which just ran tons of fan trips over the years. A rather elaborately built station there. This was on the remnant of the Elizabethtown line. These cars were Brill built, and you can see the fans out getting their pictures. Also on the Elizabethtown line. I don't know where it had been cut back to, but at Elizabethtown, it met up with the Elizabethtown line of the Conestoga traction. This is at the Hotel Hershey on a fan trip, and the car on the left was the Cincinnati-built car that they had acquired these from the Lancaster, Ephrata, and Lebanon traction company. This is the junction where the Elizabethtown line, which is where car 1 was headed, and the Lebanon line split. Car 1 was a charter, and the car in the background was a regular on the Campbelltown cutback of the Lebanon line. And this was a picture Chick Siebert took on the last day of operation on the Lebanon line, leaving Lebanon. You can see the fans are out getting their pictures. And then a few other Eastern Pennsylvania deck roof cars. Who would be out in an open car on a day like today. This is York Transit on the Windsor line. Well, the Lancaster chapter of the NRHS, that's who would do it. This is in the winter of 1938. And this is before the snow had started to fall. They were waiting for the car to pass so they could follow it the rest of the way. One thing to notice with this, this is a year before York Railways ceased operation. Look at how well maintained the cars and the right-of-way were. And York Railway was known for that, for meticulous maintenance of its fleet and right-of-way. This is the one view I have of a deck roof car on the Allentown and Reading traction company. It actually wasn't a through line to Reading. It went this went as far as Kutztown, where the system had a connecting car from Kutztown to Reading. This is at Citronia on the west end of Allentown. And Reading Transit and Light, later Reading Street Railway. This is near the Essex Street yard. Al Connor took this picture in the summer of 1941. Reading was an extensive system. They had 11 routes running at the end of World War II, and they got rid of them within 7 years. And a piece of work equipment, deck roof work equipment. That was probably always a piece of work equipment, not a converted passenger car. They had quite a variety of cars. They had sort of an interesting paint schemes too. And then here we are at Scranton with a sand car by their shops on I think it was Providence Road was where the shops were. You see a snow sweeper and bits of work equipment, including a single truck deck roof car, former passenger car. This is at Edwardstown, Edwardsville. Edwardsville on Wilkes Barre Railway. It was taken on a fan trip, and not a bad picture. You get a nice view of the car and some of the houses in the background. But as I said, people often said, if you want to get the perfect picture, stand where Ed Miller's standing. And look, he got the same scene, but absolutely perfectly composed picture with, you see the houses and you can see down the valley towards the Susquehanna, looking towards Wilkes Barre. Brooklyn and Queens Transit. This is leaving Sand Street for the Brooklyn Bridge, a BMT train on the left and one of the convertible cars on the right. They had hundreds of those convertible cars. The Brooklyn system was enormous. A lot of it emanated from either the Borough Hall area or near where the crossing on either the Williamsburg Bridge or the Brooklyn Bridge were, and radiated to all parts of Brooklyn. I wanted to show, this was one of the deck roof cars built by J.L. Stevenson Company, which was a subsidiary of Brill. I think they were in Elizabeth, New Jersey, on the 85th Street West End line. I guess what I wanted to show here was how the car could operate through the most amazing collection of trash imaginable. This car, I think was but ugly, but would I love to ride at one time. These cars were actually built by Brill as trailers in 1925, but several of them were converted to motor cars. Looks like the L had been cut back here by this time. There's not a date on this picture. And this was one of the hundreds of convertible cars that ran around Brooklyn. By this point, this car had been converted to work car operation. This is at Richard Street and Van Dyke's at the south end of the crosstown line, south end of Erie Basin, and the west end of the 15th Street line, where it had looped around. There's a diner that looks like diners used to look like and probably smelled like it too. Ed Miller worked as a draftsman for Consolidated Edison for several years before he was drafted into the Army. And on weekends, he would photograph in the New York area all the trolley operation that he could get to. This Woodhall Street at Hamilton on the Erie Basin line, which wound its way around one of the convertible cars. Park Avenue and Navy Street on the crosstown line. The PCC in the background. Park Avenue and Vanderbilt Avenue on the crosstown line, two of the convertible cars passing each other. This is at the shop between 9th and 10th Avenue. It was a two-level shop. It was the east end of the Union Line and the 15th Street line. From 10th Avenue, cars like that PCC would go into the lower level, and off of 9th Avenue, they would go into the upper level of the shop. Something bad had happened here. I don't know. I guess the convertible car was towing the PCC, but the rear truck had derailed. It attracted quite a crowd. This was at Court Street in Fulton on the Erie Basin line. Buffalo Avenue and St. John Street, one of the Stevenson-built cars on the Bergen line. Fulton Avenue at Middaugh Street at the west end of the Bergen Street line. Another view of one of the John Stevenson cars. Hegeman and Rockaway Avenue, which was the west end of the New Lots Avenue line. And the east end of the Nassau line, which ran through sort of a dreary industrial area on the northern edge of Brooklyn at Meeker Avenue and Gardner Avenue. This was the east end of the Nassau line. Also on the Nassau line at Varick Street and Meeker Avenue. Unless you were chasing trolleys or had business in one of these warehouses or small manufacturing things, you wouldn't have much reason to go to that part of Brooklyn. Union Street, which was a heavy line at Grand Army Plaza and Prospect Park West. Sort of a slushy day, but that didn't deter Ed from getting out and photographing. Boston Elevated Railway and related operations. Why was it called the Boston Elevated Railway when there was so much streetcar operation? If you look, and it doesn't always project well, but the pink lines show the subway and elevated lines. This is the Washington Avenue, Washington Street, subway elevated between Everett and Sullivan Square through the Washington Street Tunnel to Forest Hills, adjacent to the Arbor Way trolley terminal, the East Boston Tunnel, which at that point ran as far as Orient Heights. This is sort of immediately post-war. The Cambridge-Dorchester Tunnel that ran between Harvard Square and Ashmont in Dorchester, and then the Central Subway between Lechmere and the various portals. Every streetcar line in Boston interfaced with the rapid transit, and those lines which did not run into the Central Subway were all feeders to the heavy rapid lines. Dudley Station was a major terminal on the Washington Street elevated through Roxbury. There were actually two loops. This was the East Loop, which and I'm not sure about this route. This is one of the Type 4 cars. There were about 250 of them. There were 50 of these, which were called low sign cars, that were built by Laconia. There were a number of every order had cars from Laconia. There were also a significant number of cars from Jouett and maybe one or two other builders for the Type 4 cars. But the low sign cars, which had the sign, the destination sign immediately above the center window, were from Laconia. They were the first 50 cars of the of the Type 4s to be delivered. Broadway Station, sort of in the heart of South Boston. This was one of the high sign cars where the destination signs were at the ends of the Clara Street on the deck roof. Another terminal sitting at a rapid transit station, in this case, the Cambridge-Dorchester Tunnel. As you can see, CD meant that was a Charlie Duncan photo. As I said, he always had a camera with him. This one of the center entrance cars. There were 375 of these. They ran in 2- and 3-car trains. They had the odd arrangement of the pole retriever being by the conductor. Before there was low floor technology, these cars had it. They were absolute crowd eaters. This location is still an active light rail stop. The main campus of Boston College is immediately off to the left of this picture. This is the end of the Commonwealth Avenue line of the MBTA today. 3-car train, probably at the end of rush hour, coming off of Commonwealth Avenue, turning onto Chestnut Hill Avenue to go to the Reservoir Car House. As a little kid going to visit my grandparents, I remember seeing these for the first time and being absolutely fascinated by them. I think I was 4 years old. and you can see the tracks coming off from Commonwealth Avenue towards Boston College. Chick Siebert caught this view of a two-car train en route to Lechmere along Commonwealth Avenue. This is an outbound car on the way to Boston College, Lake Street loop. It's a winter view. You can still photograph here, but you can't get this clear a photograph because there's now a fence between the inbound and outbound tracks and different kinds of overhead poles. My grandmother, after my grandfather died, lived in one of these buildings. This is called Packard Corner because there was a big Packard dealer there, and it's still called Packard Corner. This is he's making the turn onto Commonwealth Avenue. This is one of those typical Boston places where the street that goes straight ahead has a different name. It's Brighton Avenue. That was the line to Watertown, but this car was on its way to Lake Street. The owner of this car dealer was Alvin Fuller, who also served as governor of Massachusetts for 2 terms. Further in on Commonwealth Avenue by the Cottage Grove Bridge, which is now called the BU Bridge, because this is right in the heart of the Boston University campus where I went to undergraduate school. This was sort of auto dealers row along here. Immediately to the right of this picture is the center of the BU campus. This car is en route to the subway. It's not clear whether he's coming from Watertown or coming from Commonwealth Avenue. Looking west on Commonwealth Avenue at Blandford Street, not far from where the subway portal is, and is that little pocket track there for turning back short-turn cars that just go run in the subway, particularly before or after Red Sox games. These buildings along here are all long gone. This is Boston University all through there. These buildings were at one time the Leahy Clinic before they moved to Burlington, Massachusetts. On the way to the National League Park, the then Boston Braves played about a mile west of here, which is where Braves Field was, which is now BU Stadium. Coming out of the subway portal onto Commonwealth Avenue with Kenmore Square in the background, where that Saucony sign is now where the Citgo sign is that you can see over the left field wall at Fenway Park. This is a 2-car train having come out of the subway, 2-car train of the center entrance cars. The center entrance cars, most of them were built by Coleman. Some are built by Brill, small number, and always some cars of every Boston order were built by Laconia. Massachusetts Avenue crossing the Charles River with the MIT main instructional building there on the right. This car was running on Massachusetts Avenue, and it would go to the Dudley station where it would connect with the Washington Street elevated. As a piece of work equipment background. This is actually how my father commuted to college. He would take this car to Dudley and then take the connecting car from Dudley to Humboldt Avenue. At Cleveland Circle, the end of the Beacon Street line, this is a car only going as far as Kenmore Square. It could have been because of a Red Sox game or something like that. This looks pretty much the same today as it did more than 80 years ago. I'm sure all the businesses on the first floor level are different now, but this area looks the same. This is where cars can sometimes come out from the Reservoir Car House to get onto Beacon Street or to make the trip over Chestnut Hill Avenue to enter service on the Commonwealth Avenue line, one of the high sign Type 4 cars. This is actually where the Beacon Street cars turn back right at this point. A lot of similarity with the buildings then and now. Westbound Beacon Street car on the way to Cleveland Circle, having passed Coolidge Corner. This is Summit Street. When I was a postdoctoral fellow at BU Thursday evening, there was a laundromat right there on the left where that was my assignment. And this is a lot of trolley action at Coolidge Corner on Beacon Street at Type 4 on the way to Cleveland Circle, and off on the right you can see one of the center entrance cars. A lot of these buildings still look the same. Coolidge Corner was the intersection of Beacon Street and Harvard Street. This is Ocean Avenue in Revere Beach. The 4300 cars had been acquired from Eastern Massachusetts Street Railway in 1936 when Eastern Mass wanted to get out of the trolley business, and they sold their Chelsea routes and the line to the Quincy shipyard to the Boston Elevated Railway. Along Revere and Legion Parkway in 1938. Another view at Revere Street in East Boston, and the Center Street Bridge in East Boston. A lot of these lines were converted to trackless operation when the East Boston Tunnel Line, which is now the Blue Line in Boston, was extended to Revere in 1951. And at Revere Beach, one of the high sign Type 4s. And Suffolk Downs, which is was and is a dog racing track. Ocean Avenue in Revere, tiny little stretch of private right-of-way there. And Chelsea and Curtis Streets in East Boston, crossing a little branch of the B&M. And a fierce snowstorm on Valentine's Day, 1941, which closed down huge sections of the system. This is in the Dorchester section, a typical three-decker, or as they call it in Boston, a three-decker house. I don't know how long that car was stranded there till they got things plowed out. I don't know what happened to the passengers on it. This was not a regular operation. It was either a training thing or a fan trip on the Fellsway, which was a line that was served by both Boston Elevated Railway and the Eastern Mass. The Eastern Mass ran the operation. It was their trackage from Elm Street, which was the outer end of the Boston Elevated Railway line, and Stoneham, Massachusetts. And you can see an old Eastern Mass car in the background, but the center entrance cars never ran on the Fellsway line, which leads me to think it was either a fan trip or a training trip. This was a very scenic operation. It was pretty much all private right-of-way till it got close to the Sullivan Square station, where it connected with the Washington Street elevated. This is the Mount Auburn Street portal in Cambridge, a Type 4 car emerging to make the trip down Mount Auburn Street and out to Belmont. It either came from Arlington or North Cambridge. The tracks going off to the right ran through Harvard Square. In case there was work being done in the tunnel, they could still divert that way. And the tracks coming into the foreground were into the Bennett Street car house. Immediately behind the left shoulder of the photographer was a bar called Cronin's, where the Boston Street Railway guys used to meet on Tuesday nights. When I would join them, Wednesday mornings would be a struggle. This is a little later, just turning the camera a little bit away from the portal on Mount Auburn Street, looking towards Harvard Square. You can see by then the trolley, the wires were up for trackless operation, and a lot of the Cambridge lines became trackless routes later on. This is looking towards Harvard Square. And this is, he's outbound on Mount Auburn Street, about to turn off onto Belmont to make the trip to Waverly in the town of Belmont. If he had gone straight, he'd be going to Watertown. Central Square was another stop on the Cambridge-Dorchester Tunnel, and there was a line that ran from there to Watertown by way of Arsenal Avenue. And there's Arsenal at Irving Street, about midway between Central Square and Watertown. And there's at Watertown, and he would make a left turn into the loop at Watertown, where the yard was, and also a loop to turn around. Off in the distance, you can see a Middlesex street railway bus that served further out sections in Newton and Waltham. And then swinging around to South Boston, L Street and Broadway. This was a car coming from City Point. It's not clear where he's heading there, whether he's heading towards the subway. Also, there were lines from that area that ran to Dudley Station. And this was the City Point car house with a Type 4 car. The initial picture, when I asked if that's a deck roof car, I was standing right over there when I took that picture. This is looking at it from a different angle on the Mattapan-Ashmont line, still an active line using rebuilt PCCs. This is one stop east of Mattapan, where it would end. Coming out of the Arborway onto South Street in Jamaica Plain, heading for the subway, a center entrance car. Making its way up South Huntington Avenue, and further up South Huntington Avenue at Perkins Street, heading inbound towards Park Street in the subway, and then even further up on Huntington Avenue, up on the hill was the New England Baptist Hospital. Just where those billboards are is where the current Heath Street Loop is located, and just off to the right is the Boston VA Hospital now, and more three-decker houses you can see along there. This is on Huntington Avenue, almost to Northeastern University, where the art museum is. This is one of the reasons for major traffic headaches. Three-car trains on Huntington Avenue, crossing Massachusetts Avenue at Symphony Hall in 1938. By this point, the construction of the Huntington Avenue subway was underway, because this trolley traffic through here was intolerable. The subway was probably finished at that. The excavation was done, and this was temporary trackage looking towards Copley Square with an outbound Type 4 car. This was the portal before the Northeastern portal on Huntington Avenue was built. They came out right by the public garden on the left, and then in the background is the Boston Common, and out of view on the far left would be the Massachusetts State House. The photographer has his back to Arlington Street. This is a single car, center entrance car on its way to the Arborway. Harvard Street and Brookline, another line which just ran a short distance on Harvard Street, then in Boylston Street to where it met up with Huntington Avenue into the subway. This is the intersection of Harvard Street and Boylston. That bank building is still there. You can see there was no traffic light. There was a very brave police officer standing in a little cage there. At the top of this, right about here, is now where that was the Highland branch of the Boston and Albany, which is now the Riverside line of the MBTA. The Tremont Street line was another heavy line which ran into the Central Subway. It ran Tremont Street to Columbus Avenue, under the L at Eggleston Square, and then into the terminal at Eggleston Square. So it connected both at Park Street with the Cambridge-Dorchester Tunnel, and at Eggleston Square with the Washington Street elevated. In the background, you can see one of the Tremont PCCs. There were 20 of those, really not enough to fully roster this line, because this was a heavy carrier, the Tremont Street line. Another view by the old public garden portal, in this case a car that would go out to Brookline Village along Huntington Avenue, and then turning around and looking west towards Copley Square. The church there, the South Church. No, that wasn't South Church. I forget what that was called. At Arlington and Boylston Street, a Type 4 followed by a center entrance car. And coming up Seaver Street out of Eggleston Square, a Type 4 on the way to Mattapan. And then further down Blue Hill Avenue, almost to Mattapan, very heavy line. And then Blue Hill Avenue, just about to Mattapan, which was a both residential and commercial area. And Mattapan was a major trolley transfer point. The Cummings Highway line to Forest Hills left there, the Mattapan Ashmont line, and then the Blue Hill Avenue Seaver Street line. A low sign Type 4 car. And Central Avenue in Milton, this looks quite similar today. It was except it's not served by Type 4 cars anymore. That smokestack is still there. This is Eggleston Square in 1938. This car had just come off of the Tremont Street, Columbus Avenue line. Columbus Avenue turned into Seaver Street here. You can see in the background the Type 4 arriving from Mattapan. There was a horrific accident involving a Type 4 at Eggleston Square in 1949, after which all the Type 4s were withdrawn from service. A little further in, about to pass under the Washington Street elevated at Eggleston Square. This is all gone now because the Orange Line was relocated about a mile west of here. But there is a plaque saying this is where Eggleston Square was. And then further inbound, a car on Columbus Avenue. And then further inbound, when Columbus Avenue became Tremont Street, a Type 4 and center entrance car passing. And then Lenox Street, there was a loop there until the end of operation. I think it was in 1958. Operation, just a short shuttle turned around there. So this would just run through the subway. It would go right into the subway portal and into the central subway and make its way to North Station. This 4-track portal has been closed for more than 60 years. This car, emerging the Type 4, is on its way to City Point in South Boston. The tracks on the left would be the Tremont Street tracks. There's a car coming in from Tremont Street. And an outbound car to Tremont Street. At the Arborway, campaign signs were very commonly plastered on trolleys during campaign season. It always seems to be campaign season in Boston. This was a former Eastern Mass car in Chelsea, and you could see it was not long for this world because the wires were up for trackless operation. This is at Stoneham. This was the car in the foreground was one of the Eastern Mass cars. The car in the background was likely a Phantom. First of all, it signed up for Ashland, which is miles and miles away from there, and Type 4s, Boston L cars in general, did not go to Stoneham. This is Oak Square, which is a cutback on the Watertown line. And by then you could see they were still sharing the Tremont PCCs with the Tremont Street line and Watertown. It's a car on an outside lift on the left. On the way to Ashmont. I'm not sure where this was coming from. I'd have to get out my maps and look. And this was a former car of the West End Railway, one of the predecessors to the Boston Elevated Railway. This was, I think, the Jamaica Plains cutback with a Type 4. And at City Point, probably in the summer, people going to the beach there. And at Mattapan, a car about to leave to make its way up Blue Hill Avenue and Seaver Street to Eggleston Square. My grandfather rode this line to and from work. And these were Eastern Mass cars before the consolidation This was at Quincy Point at the Quincy shipyard. This line made its way up towards Neponset Avenue, where it would connect with the Boston Elevated Railway cars. And this is at the Fellsway at Elm Street, which is as far from Sullivan Square as the Boston Elevated Railway came, and the car on the left is on its way to Stoneham. That's an Eastern Mass car. And I can still look at center entrance cars in operation in Boston in my basement. This is in Quincy, Quincy Center, which is the trolleys are long gone, but the South Shore line of the MBTA is immediately behind the photographer now. And it was an extensive system, the Eastern Mass. This is in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Bill Watts took this when he was a student. And in Salem, and a predecessor, the Bay State Railway car in Salem, very early. Chicago, a huge system. Chicago Surface Lines didn't own any cars. They were an operating company, and the cars belonged to the predecessor purchasers on the north side, Chicago Railway, on the south side, Chicago City Railway. The Chicago lines were all pretty much the same: arrow straight, double track, flat, but what they lacked in variety in lines, they sure made up for in cars. The bowling alleys were built by Chicago United Traction between 1899 and 1900. And the matchboxes, 323 of them built by St. Louis over about 3 years. The horizontal stripe by the headlight indicated that this was a one-man car. More views of the matchboxes. Neat looking little cars. I think the car 2009 was called a turtleback car. Someone can correct me if I'm mistaken. The big Pullmans. If you want to play Jeopardy in the category stupid questions, who built the Pullmans? Well, you'd be right for the most part. 600 of them were built by Pullman between 1908 and 1909, but then there were about 50 that were built by Press Steel. And then the new Pullmans, 350 of them came along several years later. Chicago, their motto was always a car in sight. There was no free transfer to the elevated until the consolidation in 1947, when Chicago Rapid Transit and Chicago Surface Lines were merged. So you had to make up your mind which system you were going to ride, or else pay two fares. They simplified the paint scheme from here to here. They removed the box striping. Pullman cars were everywhere. These were the so-called little brills. They had very distinctive arch windows on them. They were built for Chicago City Railways, I think in 1904, and like Chicago City Railways, largely served lines on the south side. They had that triple arch window in the center of the car. Otherwise, they were doubles. Calumet in South Chicago had, I think there were like 140 of these St. Louis built cars. And they had that odd window in the center, that very narrow window. I don't know if someone had made a mistake in measuring or if they meant for it to be like that. But they were very distinctive looking cars. And they also served the South Side for the most part. So here they made their way into downtown Chicago, into the Loop area. Baltimore. Baltimore was one of the last operators of deck roof cars. This is Baltimore chapter and RHS. They had that sign and they always put it on their charters. This is at Sparrows Point. There's a PCC having arrived from Pratt and Grundy Street. And then the deck roof car is sitting on the trackage of what had been the Fort Howard line. It's hard to read this map, but you get an idea. And the next map I show you will give you an even better idea. Baltimore was an extensive system. They had a visceral aversion to straight line routes. If a route could meander, they found a way to do it. This was by 1950, after National Cities lines had taken over, and it shows the remaining routes, and you can see that they still wandered all over the place. By that point, the Sparrows Point line was isolated, though there was still shuttle trackage, but the Fort Howard line was still in operation. It had once been a circle line to Bayshore Amusement Park, but a bridge burned out in the, I think, mid-1940s, and that ended that. This is at Fort Howard. The one-man cars were typically in a yellow, orange, and white, and the two-man cars, the Red Rockets, were painted red. Fort Howard. And a lot of these creek crossings, this is a car that had gotten the National Cities sort of mustardy yellow paint scheme. Bunch of these crossings. This is, just a few miles outside of downtown Baltimore, and it's a real rural operation with these little station sheds. Some double track stretches. And at Fort Howard, as I said, Les Wismer, often with his father and brother, they would go trolley chasing to Baltimore, always on a Friday or Saturday, because they were very observant old order Mennonites, and no trolley stuff on a Sunday. That's Henry Wismer, Les's father, who at one point had been a motorman on the Inland Traction, one of the predecessors of Lehigh Valley. Two-car train of the Red Rockets, which had actually been purchased 1919. And the last of them, I think, were delivered in 1920. They were for MU operation on the Sparrows Point line to take workers to the Big Bethlehem steel plant at Sparrows Point. A bunch of cars waiting at the Sparrows Point station. Downtown Baltimore on the Route 26 before it was cut back to East Baltimore with the Brummelseltzer Tower in the background on East Lombard Street. Eastern Avenue at East Haven Street. Eastern Avenue sort of the main drag of East Baltimore. On Dundalk Avenue, looking towards Sparrows Point. Ed Miller was very fond of getting pictures of trolleys and movie marquees, and this is no exception. And he had a bit of a crush on Ingrid Bergman. So if he saw something with one of her movies, he was ecstatic. Outbound to Sparrows Point along Dundalk Avenue. And a color view that it got going through Dundalk. One of the red rockets in service on the Sparrows Point line, and then later painted in National City's colors. On its way to Sparrows Point. By the time Ed got his color camera, all of the cars had been painted in the National City's color. He got his color camera in 1951, so he could photograph the final year of operation on the Laurel line. People having gotten off of a two-car train on its way to Sparrows Point, with another one right behind. Crossing over Bear Creek with the big steel mill at Sparrows Point in the background. That may have been a fan trip, and it's inbound. And a red rocket passing a PCC over Bear Creek, coming into the town of Sparrows Point and making its way through East Baltimore. East Baltimore. People sitting on the famous white marble steps of the row houses in Baltimore. Downtown West Lombard Street at South Liberty and South Howard Street, near where the Central Light Rail crosses. Not sure where this is. It was actually on the cover of one of the books about Baltimore. It was a George Boyce photo. It was a fan trip shot somewhere. Ed was particularly fond of the little jerkwater lines, which were little branch lines. This one between Walbrook Junction and Lorraine Cemetery. This is at the end of the line at Lorraine Cemetery. The motorman's getting ready for the return trip to Walbrook Junction. And alongside of the road operation, outbound car to Lorraine. In the one-man paint scheme of the yellow, orange, and cream. A passing siding in the foreground, outbound car to Lorraine, and coming towards the photographer, an inbound car to Walbrook, and at Walbrook Junction. This was an interesting little one car route, the Cheswold line. This is at Cheswold. He's about to make the return trip along Greenspring Road, paralleling Greenspring Avenue. Sorry. The track straight ahead would be going towards Solgrave Avenue near Mount Washington. And to the right would be outbound. That may have been the Pimlico line. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. And then one-man cars meandering through the Canton area of East Baltimore, which has become very gentrified. South Street and East Lombard with Brill Bus in the background, and the Bromo-Seltzer Tower. Pennsylvania Avenue was one of the long surviving deck roof lines. Baltimore kept the deck roof cars a long time because a lot of their lines did not have loops. And this is when the Route 9 sometimes ran all the way to Ellicott City. Obviously, it couldn't do that with PCCs because it was just a stub end terminal at Ellicott City. This is at, what was this? This called this cutback loop. North Bend. I knew I could get it. Yeah. North Bend cutback. And this is Catonsville Junction, which is when the Ellicott City line became a shuttle. That's where it would turn back. It would run between here, Catonsville Junction, and because it was a crossover, and Ellicott City. And looking west towards Ellicott City, the PCC had come in from Rolling Road Loop on its way to downtown. And the crossover, so the car on the right would be on his way back to Ellicott City. And this was coming by the Rolling Road loop where the PCCs turned around on their way to downtown Baltimore by Edmondson Avenue. Another view at Rolling Road. And the famous bridge into Ellicott City. Along the main drag. It's an inbound car from there. More views along the Ellicott City line. Passing under the B&O, a meet in Ellicott City. These cars were, former Red Rocket cars. They were 13-window cars. As I said, they were the last deck roof cars delivered to Baltimore. And this was the stub end terminal at Ellicott City. It was by the Armory at Preston Street and North Howard Street. You can see this building from the light rail right of way. This was a fan trip. They were less well dressed than all the people on that Fairmount Park fan trip, but not bad. And it was a very hot day, supposedly. And then on the Pennsylvania Avenue line, it's sort of a busy shot at North Utah Street, turning onto West Saratoga Avenue on its way up. Pennsylvania Avenue, we see the nuns there. We see the overhead crew, the Bromo-Seltzer Tower. Pennsylvania Avenue and Dolphin Street. An inbound car making its way actually to Canton in East Baltimore. And also in Canton on Conkling Street at Hudson Street in Canton. You can see the track, the overhead coming off of Hudson Street. And you can see a Hudson there in the far right. And the famous white marble steps. This is why there were so many double-ended deck roof cars for so long, because this is how so many of the lines ended. Cumberland Street, at the north end of the Pennsylvania Avenue line. And Edmondson Avenue, a car inbound from Ellicott City. Another view at Cumberland Street. And another one-man car in East Baltimore. South Clinton and Toon Street, and at the end of Toon Street was the stub end. South Pecos Street at West Pratt downtown, on the western edge of downtown. And one more view at Cumberland Street. Highland Avenue at Toon Street. And then another view in Sparrows Point with one of the Red Rockets. A lineup of Red Rocket cars. And one view on the Guilford Avenue elevated with Orleans Street viaduct in the background. And a whole lineup of deck roof cars at the car house. Public service. Kristen, if you can unmute Jack May, maybe he can help with some of these. I had some difficulty identifying things, even using some of these books. This was at Clementon on the Southern Division. It was the last line on the Southern Division. It ran until 1937, though it just had a franchise run in the last couple of years of operation. This is on the Hoboken Elevated, having left the Lackawanna station. That was called Hudson Station, or I think, and on its way to Union City. This one, there was no caption information on the negative when I printed this photo. And it's not even a deck roof car. It's sort of a faux deck roof car, but we can look at it anyhow. It's orange, so I guess that's Newark Division. Right, Jack?
21 ran on Central Avenue in Newark.
Yeah.
And it ran into the Newark City subway.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't find this location looking at the maps that I had. Once again, it got a movie marquee in Bergen Line Avenue on the Union City line. But I could not find this location with this track arrangement with the map I had. Maybe you know something? This is having left the elevated on its way to Summit. It would sort of meander around and work its way north. Furry Street at New York Avenue on the Summit line, and again here I think it would sort of wind around to get back onto the Hoboken Elevated, wouldn't it, Jack?
Can you respond?
Yeah.
I didn't hear what.
Oh, you should have put your, okay.
Oh, I said on the Summit Line, Ferry Street at New York Avenue. This would sort of wind its way around to get back onto the elevated, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Once you're hitting the
And then this is Old Bergen Road, again, the south end of the Jackson Avenue line with one of the all-service vehicles on the left. Bergen Avenue at Montgomery Street in Jersey City. And Wycliffe Avenue at Warren Street. This is getting into the city subway, right, Jack?
Yes. And the city subway is below what you see on the right. And
Yeah.
of course, it still has streetcars or what they now call LRVs running in it today.
Yeah. Monticello Avenue and Communipaw Avenue on the Jackson line. This I did find on a map. Busy intersection. And then the, I guess this was what, the Palisades part of the elevated, yes?
Yeah.
Looking eastbound. And also looking eastbound with, in the mist, you can see some of the Manhattan skyline in the background.
It lasted until 1948.
49, wasn't it?
49, actually. Well,
Yeah.
48, 49.
Yeah. And actually, Les Wismer took this picture on the last day of operation. He and his father went up there to chase it. And then the loop on Mississippi Avenue between Elm and Harrison and West Orange with the and Main Street in orange. And this line ran to the subway also, yes?
Yeah.
And the Hackensack line in 1937, Bob Lewis took this picture.
This connected with the ferry to New York City, to upper New York City,
Okay.
the Hudson River line.
Okay. And Scotch Plains in 1935. It was also a Bob Lewis photo. And I don't know who took this in Elizabeth, but it's an interesting car and an interesting scene. And the orange line getting into the city subway.
Yep.
And Bloomfield Avenue.
Right. The ramps are still visible if you rode today.
Yeah.
Of course, there's no track.
Yeah. And this is where the Franklin Avenue loop was when they got the PCCs, though the line goes a bit further out currently. Pittsburgh Railway is just a little bit, it'd be carrying coals to Newcastle to show a lot of Pittsburgh stuff, but Ed Miller got this shot at Black Diamond Junction on the Denora line in July of 1952. And along the line to Castle Shannon, I think we'll agree that Dormont looks different now than then. As does this. As does Mount Lebanon. Carson at Smithfield. I show this one because it's an interesting picture, and two, I wanted to illustrate that Ed Miller was absolutely fearless about heights. And when he would want to go out doing trolley archaeology along the Laurel line, sometimes he took me to places where I was terrified of the heights, but he, even though he was probably 30 years older than me, was absolutely fearless about climbing places like this, but he got a great picture coming out of Charleroi, crossing the Monongahela. I'm not sure where this is. One of the Pittsburgh guys will know. And at Trafford, where the West Penn connected in one of the double-ended deck roof cars. And along the library line. Not sure what car house that is. Again, someone could help with that. This I guess was a fan trip. Conestoga Traction. They had Jim Schumann caught this picture. They ran these open cars until the mid 1930s when someone fell out into the path of an oncoming car the other direction. So they promptly discontinued operation of the open cars. They had several of these wood cars from Wasson from 1909, North New Holland Avenue at Franklin Street, and then two of the deck roof cars passing on the Rocky Springs line. And then Hillside Turnout on South Queen Street in 1933. This was a remnant of what had been the Quarryville line and the Strasburg line, the South Queen Street line. One of the Cincinnati-built suburban cars. And inbound on the Mannheim line at Keller Avenue. Connecticut company. I just have a few of that Ed Miller had taken on several trips when he was working for Con Ed, State Street and James Street in 1941. Not sure where this is. West Haven Yard. East Haven. I guess this is now part of the museum. And a Connecticut company open car. And on Main Street in Branford in 1941, before the museum acquired the remnant of the Branford line. State Street in Allman, 1948. And Savin Rock in West Haven, probably in 1941. Capital Transit in front of the Capitol on I guess the trolley is on First Street, car 766, which was the last deck roof car on the property. Washington, for a large city, had relatively few lines, but as a result, the lines were very, very heavy carriers. These were heritage cars that had been well preserved on Indiana Avenue at 3rd Street Northwest, almost certainly a charter. And often Ed's friend, Mike Lavelle, was the operator on Connecticut Avenue at the South Street, car 766. Again, certainly a charter. And 14th Street and Constitution Avenue. This line was on its way to the Bureau of Engraving. 14th and Emerson Streets Northwest on Route 50. G Street about to cross Fifth Street, a packed charter, and C Street, looking west at the intersection of C Street and Louisiana and New Jersey avenues. Pennsylvania Avenue at 6th Street, looking towards the Capitol building. Massachusetts Avenue at North Capitol Street. Maybe the Senate office building. 14th Street and G. Again, 14th Street line, heading southbound towards the Bureau of Engraving. 9th Street at F Street. This was a little shuttle trackage through there. And this is an old deck roof car that had been converted into a rail grinder. And that was Ed's friend and mentor, the one who encouraged him to come to Capitol Transit and be a motorman, Mike Lavelle, who was also a native of Scranton. Indiana Avenue and 1st Street Northwest. And the DuPont Circle underpass, one of the last major capital projects the Capitol Transit undertook. And then in Southeast Washington, at Pennsylvania Avenue, on Pennsylvania Avenue at Potomac Street, with the PCC in the background. Union Station. This was an attempt, I don't think a very successful one, to make the car look better, where they tried to streamline it with skirting. And give them credit for trying. At Eckington Car House. On the Branchville line, that same car, 713, passing a PCC. Kenilworth Avenue at Benning Car House. Ed operated out of Benning Car House. That was his home territory. You can see the car house on the left. You can see the freight branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad on the right. This is G Street at 15th. This was a diversion that day because it was January 20th, 1949, the day of President Truman's inauguration. So because of the parade, there was a lot of diversion of the car lines. Rhode Island Avenue in College Park on the way to Branchville, little playground on the right. This was a fan trip. And Pennsylvania Avenue at 15th Street. And then the single track line between Branchville and Beltsville, sort of paralleled Hollywood Boulevard. This was a car in regular service to Beltsville. G Street at 11th. Fourteenth Street and Colorado Avenue, a fan trip and a bunch of regular cars waiting to make their way. And Beulah Crossing in Beltsville. Calvert Street, Biltmore in Northwest, I think, crossing Rock Creek in the background. Union Station Plaza and Delaware Avenue northeast. You can see a bit of the Union Station building in the background on the right. 8th Street and Massachusetts Avenue. Washington didn't have huge numbers of any of the deck roof cars, but they had a lot of them. So they must have been multiple orders. Kenilworth Avenue at Foot Street. Benning Road at 18th Street Northeast. New York Avenue at 14th Street Northwest. Sorry, there's sirens going off in the background here. New York Avenue at 15th Street. For the Kenilworth line. This is where the third rail ended and the overhead wire began. Ed told a story one day. He had motored a car on the Kenilworth line from here and forgot to put the pole down at the back end of the car. And so he backpoled with that all the way back here. Fortunately, nothing bad happened. To the left of the deck roof car, you see one of the ex-Providence cars. Seat Pleasant. Florida Avenue at 3rd Street Northeast, passing under. I don't know if this was still the Washington Terminal Railway here because there's a B&O train, but I think we see overhead too for the Penzies. So this line ran from I think Calvert to the Navy Yard. And one of the final operations in Washington, a night charter. 3rd Avenue. Are you still with me, Jack? I may need your help. The 3rd Avenue system was largely third rail in Manhattan and overhead in the Bronx and in Westchester County, Yonkers. This is the best map I could find. I could not find one that was more vertically aligned, for which I apologize. Morris Park Avenue at Williamsbridge Road, which was the northern end of the B Boston Road line. I don't have a roster of 3rd Avenue. The definitive, there's a couple of very nice picture books about 3rd Avenue, but the definitive history has yet to be written. This is the south end of the Boston Road line, 3rd Avenue at East 137th Street.
In the Bronx.
Yeah, in the Bronx. Yeah, obviously under overhead. Yeah. Boston Road at East 169th Street. Fordham Road at Fordham Plaza at the east end of Bailey Avenue.
The B on the plates in the front were used on a number of lines: Bailey Avenue, Boston Road, and Broadway.
Yeah.
But they did not intersect each other, so no confusion.
Yeah, because it could have been confusing, yeah. East Tremont Avenue at DeVoe Avenue on the Boston Road line. Know nothing about the origin of these cars because, as I say, I don't have access to a roster of 3rd Avenue. West 230th at Broadway, which was the west end of the Bailey Avenue convertible car.
Down.
Oh, yeah, right.
Westchester Avenue at Southern Boulevard, Route A, Westchester Avenue, New Rochelle. Don't have a location on that. Obviously a summer view. St. Anne's Avenue, which was said to be a boring little line, but I wouldn't mind seeing it one time. Morris Avenue at East 161st Street. Route
This
M.
line quit at the beginning of the conversion before World War II in 1941.
Yeah, well, that's when Ed was there working, so that's when he got these photos. West 145th Street near Lenox Avenue on the Manhattan Broadway line. This was sort of a C-shaped line, wasn't it? It made its way up Amsterdam Avenue and then Broadway to about 181st Street.
Indeed.
Yeah. And then east 177th Street or Eastern Boulevard, which was the east end of the 180th Street crosstown.
Eastern Boulevard was renamed Bruckner Boulevard.
That's right, yeah. University Avenue at Tremont, Route Z, the 180th Street crosstown. They, although they had names for like 180th Street crosstown, they wandered from the street for which they were named. East Tremont at 176th Street. As I said, they wandered from 180th Street, but it's an interesting view that it caught, as only he could. Madison Avenue about to turn onto East 138th Street in the Route X.
Many of the crosstown routes were lettered X, including 42nd Street, 59th Street, here 138th Street, 161st Street, 167th, 207th, all X's.
Yeah. Locust Avenue, Route 138X at the east end. X167 on East 169th Street. Go figure, at Boston Road. West 267th Street at 10th Avenue.
That's actually in Manhattan. Behind the photographer is the bridge that leads from Manhattan to the Bronx.
But they had
the IRT subway, now the number 1 line, is the elevated line shown in the picture.
Okay. West Fordham Road at Jerome Avenue on Route X 207. With an interesting looking bus on the right. Westchester Avenue at Whitlock Avenue, Route X 167. The west end of the X 207 at 207th and Broadway West. And the north end of the 10th Avenue, that was a Manhattan line, wasn't it, the 10th Avenue?
Right, but the W is the Willis Avenue line from the Bronx. It ran from the Bronx across the Willis Avenue Bridge, then turned on onto 125th Street and ran with the 125th Street crosstown car to the Hudson River, which is where this photo is.
Okay. East Tremont at 3rd Avenue, the south end of the V. Williamsbridge line.
Or as some Bronxites said, the V. Williamsbridge line.
Okay. Says something about native language, maybe. Yeah. Morris Park Avenue at East Tremont on the Route V. Williamsbridge line. Burnside Avenue at Walton Avenue on Route S. Sedgwick. Convertible car. And a boomer car, an ex-3rd Avenue car in San Diego. I added this because the theme for our 2019 East Penn meet was boomer cars. Now a few odds and ends. Chick Siebert journeyed up to Manchester, New Hampshire when he was working for General Electric and Lynn and caught a deck roof car passing a railroad roof car. The railroad roof car was a variant of the deck roof, actually, but it was more aerodynamic. And the railroads went in for it a big way, and the interurban trolley lines did too, not so much the city systems. A snowy day in Manchester. Pine Island Park, which looks pretty desolate this time of year, but the trolley's a thing of beauty in front of it. St. Louis had some deck roof cars, probably either built by St. Louis Car Company or Laclede. Portland had its share of deck roof cars, as did Twin Cities. I think most of them were built in-house. I don't know the location. A couple buildings are recognizable. That's the old Milwaukee Road railroad station, and that's the Hotel Fauché, still very prominent in the Minneapolis skyline. No locations on the captions of these pictures, so I can't tell you exactly where they were. Denver had the narrow gauge deck roof cars. Winnipeg put very modern looking front ends on some of their deck roof cars. Looks like it was quite a climb into that car. Would not be ADA compliant. As same applied to this British Columbia deck roof car, single-ended. And then let's look at a few deck roof rapid transit cars. This was the Atlantic Avenue L. I loved these cars when I was a kid. I never saw the Atlantic Avenue L. It was gone long before I was born, but it ran between South Station and North Station. This is near Rose Wharf, Chicago. I'm not sure exactly what that is. That could be, is that the Lake Street elevated? I'm just not sure. It's not a great picture, but it's what I had. Stillwell Avenue. I guess you could call these deck roof cars. They had the ventilation things mounted on the roof. Interesting looking cars. East New York Yard Lead in 1962. Metropolitan Avenue, Jamaica Line. The deck roof cars were largely on the BMT. Beverly Road on the Brighton Beach Line. Queensboro Bridge Plaza. Lots of people. Also Beverly Road. And Staten Island, which has always been sort of a fan favorite, especially when these cars were there. It was actually, I think, a B&O Railroad subsidiary, Annandale, in 1972. And I always liked that paint scheme on those Staten Island cars at Stapleton. Gungan Hills. That's sort of a B&O type paint scheme. Blue with yellow lettering and trim. They were big cars. It's almost like Staten Island's version of the P&W. Clifton. South of Nassau Station. New Dorp. Interesting looking gas station there on the left. Great Kill Station. Any of my friends or people who know me know I'm going to squeeze a little bit of LVT in here. One of the St. Louis cars, they bought 50 of these. I think in 1903 they ordered them. They didn't need that many. They sold 10 to the Key system. This was at angle siding on the Liberty Bell line. Right near here, there was a physical connection with the Reading Railroad. He's northbound, probably on a Norristown Souderton local. This is the south end of Broad siding near Wales Junction. These cars actually ran the Liberty Bell line before the extension from Wales Junction to Norristown was built. It would have been a slow journey from Chestnut Hill to Allentown, but I bet any of us would love to do it one time. One of the LVT 700 cars is in the background, heading northbound. Lansdale Station, to the right, outside of the picture, is the Reading Doylestown Lansdale line, the electrified line. At Center Valley, about to return to Allentown. On its way south on, actually he's northbound on South Mountain, heading towards Allentown. Coming up out of Allentown, you can see the city in the background, coming up South Mountain from Emmaus Junction. And that's at Emmaus Junction with the passing siding, crossing the Aneyville Viaduct, the Dave Cope picture. Talk about someone who is fearless about heights and everything else. In front of the Allentown Hospital at 17th and Chew Street. And the grease car going through Quakertown. And car 302, which I think was built in-house, being towed to the Bethlehem steel plant in South Bethlehem to be scrapped. And you can still ride deck roof cars, as in San Francisco. RTY, this was an East Penn outing to RTY. They were wonderful hosts. This was another East Penn to Baltimore Streetcar Museum, and they had everything out running for us that day. Or at the National Park at Lowell, Massachusetts. I think this car was built by Gameco. Or in Lisbon, single truck deck roof cars. They have pantographs and trolley poles. Or you can go to PTM, put in a little plug for, and you can even see George Gola talking on his phone. Okay, now that we've seen all this, anyone want to argue that this is a deck roof car? You know, if you want to get into an argument about it, knock yourself out. My great delight is seeing deck roof cars simply by going into my basement. Thank you for your forbearance, for your attendance tonight. And if there's any comments, discussion, critique, bring it on.
Thank you so much, Rich. Already some wonderful comments coming into the chat. One of them was Bob Hillman is glad to have the bios on the photographers. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't have this great program and all these photos. And I likewise appreciated the speaker or the photographer biographies at the beginning. That was really nice. We're gonna let people unmute themselves in just a second here. Before we do that, I did want to share the upcoming presentations here at the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. The next Trolleyology will be July 22nd, and that'll be South Jersey Rapid Transit Evolution, the bridge line to Patco, Part 1 from Bob Wright. And then August 19th, we'll have Part 2 of Harry Garforth's presentation on the Frankfurt's Elevated Railway. And then just a reminder, we also have our summer hours right now. We're open from Tuesday through Sunday. So almost every day you can come see us at the museum. Okay, thanks again, Rich. Let's get to some questions here. In the meantime, you can always support the museum by becoming a member or a volunteer or making a donation at patrolley.org/support. Let's see. Actually, one of the first questions that came in was about the Bud Market Frankfurt cars. Would you consider those deck roof cars?
No, I just think they were just butt ugly. Oh, you mean the current ones?
No, I think it's car 614 was the reference.
Oh, you mean like the Almond Joy cars?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, no. Or there were multiple decks. No, I don't know. They weren't much to look at, but they sure were awful riding cars.
Okay, and everybody can let's see. Sorry, everyone can turn their videos on as well now. I invite you to turn those on. Let me make it so everyone can unmute. Sorry, I'm slow here. Allow participants to unmute themselves. Okay.
Let's see your faces too.
Yeah, let's see your faces. Awesome. Any questions for Rich? Lots of thanks coming into the chat here. Oh, okay. 614 was the air-conditioned car and did not have the humps, but one long roof. Okay. Catherine Black says, wow, had no idea that there were so many. Too bad so few survived.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the museums have a bunch of them. I think there's a center entrance Boston car at Seashore. They have one of the 42 or 4300 cars for the Eastern Mass. Branford has a bunch of deck roof cars, open cars and closed cars. Obviously, PTM has a nice collection of them. So,
Yeah.
and, IRM also, and I think the one in Northern California has one of the ex-LVT St. Louis cars. So there's a bunch around.
All right. Roof shroud. Yeah. Any questions coming in for, I'm trying to scroll back and see if I missed any here. There was a lot of conversation during the program about various places and let's see. Catherine notes that the attire on the fan trip was pretty normal for going out clothes back in the day, and we've gotten so informal these days when you were talking about the suits.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, lots of just like commentary while you were presenting, which is always good.
If there's anything that I may have said mistakenly, I'd like to know because I like to correct these things.
George Gula had some notes about the specific Pittsburgh, or I guess Washington County spots that I think you did not know the location. So I can send you the chat afterwards.
Okay.
And you can maybe plug those in for future.
Thank you, George.
Ah. All right. Well, we got a quiet bunch today. So really appreciated the variety we got to see here. If anyone wants to jump in, just feel free to unmute yourself. Otherwise, I think we might wrap it up there.
It's unfortunate that the mayor of Washington, D.C. announced that they were going to scrap the streetcar and convert it to trackless trolley buses. They said that trolleys cost more than buses. This was soon after the head of the subway said they were never going to build any more subway. They come up with a plan of a big loop. Must have spent a lot of money on planning that. And then they're going to never have a additional subway.
Well, I think the Washington streetcar was the first step of what was supposed to have been a fairly extensive network on some of the wider streets, and it was sort of programmed to fail from the beginning. Built as a curb lane, built as a curb lane line rather than in the center of the street with a reserved.
Yeah. It was 60 miles at one point.
Yeah, yeah,
And as time went on, they shortened it.
yeah.
Someone did ask in the presentation about car 766 if it ended up at the National Capital Trolley Museum. So I had to look it up, and it looks like they renumbered it to its original number 27. So yeah, it is there.
Okay, I was not aware of that. Thank you. Yeah.
So they claim that was the last deck roof car in the country. I don't know if that's true.
Well, probably, yeah, but it only ran in charter service because Washington was the first system to be in revenue service 100% PCC.
No, what I meant to say was it was the order that was part of.
Oh, really?
The first was the very last. That's what they say. I don't know.
Yeah. I know one of the very late ones was the Red Rockets in Baltimore, the two-man MU cars that were used on the Sparrows Point line.
Okay. Excellent. Any other questions or comments for Rich? All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Thank you so much, Rich, for presenting and
for inviting
the
us.
program. Yeah, always. Hope to see everybody again next time. Thanks.
Maybe you won't see me next month because Center for Railroad Photography and Art has an event that same day.
Oh, I hate when I accidentally do that. Well, we do usually record these things, so
Yes.
you can always catch up later. So, all right. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks again to those who donated, and we will see you at the next one. Thanks. Have a great night.
Ciao.
Have a great night.
Bye.